Hi, everybody. Um, it's
Hi.
uh, it's Gretchen and Keilah. Welcome. And today we have the wonderful opportunity to sit down here and talk with Miss Tory Christman, Magoo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Magoo. Welcome to our channel, Tory.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, it's our pleasure, and we're so glad you accepted the invitation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Um, so, um, so we wanted to just, I know that some of you are familiar with Tory's story. Um, but I just wanted to kind of recap a little bit with your okay here, Tory, and you
Sure.
can fill in any of the gaps that I
Perfect.
may have missed. But Tory was in Scientology for um, 30 years, right? 30 years.
That's right.
Yep.
And then left in 2000 because of a series of actually, um, weirdly enough, because of the project you were on in Scientology got you access, more open access to the internet, and got exposed to different things, and you were reading information and different sources and different.
No, no.
No, yeah, but you got onto Zeno.net, right?
Can I just tell
Yes,
you?
yes,
Because
Please.
of
I
course,
got in 1969, and I want all of your listeners to remember in 1969, there was no internet. So you have to remember that and keep that in mind because everyone's like, why didn't you just look it up? Right? But you
right,
couldn't look up anything back then. And if you did, if you went and talked to someone who knew this information, you were declared suppressive, which they declare someone a suppressive person. Those are all my evil deeds, they say. They're flat out lies. And then your only terminal is the International Justice Chief. So I was in for 30 years. I woke up because I was helping open up those phony accounts
right,
for the internet. But I was too afraid to read the internet. That's why when I finally looked, just the day I looked for one day, and they had on baking recipes. And in
mm,
between the baking recipes, it said, I didn't say this. Scientology's changing my words. And my best friend and auditor, which is a counselor, had said, look, I just need help on the internet. And I said, doing what? I didn't know what the internet was. And he said, just open an account. If you just open an account, that'll help me. So I did. And then I opened up 10. And now he had 10 accounts and he was jogging around basically distracting people off of any topic they didn't want known, dividing and conquering, getting them to fight with each other, and just sliming the area. So that was the only thing I saw was the baking recipes and these people saying I didn't say that. And I thought I didn't get into Scientology to stop free speech.
right.
So I left a few days after that.
And it was because of that feeling of that was your breaking point, free speech,
That
right?
wasn't the only thing. I had read
Yeah,
books for 10 years,
right.
and the books actually helped me strip off the mind control. That's what I think. It's like I didn't go to a therapist, but I read philosophy, psychology, all the things that you can't do in Scientology. I didn't read the three evil books they had out then. I didn't read those, but I went to bookstores and just read everything I could. And that I think helped me wake up.
Okay.
So I could hear Andreas in Norway. He was the person in Norway who helped me finally wake up.
Yes,
Right.
Andreas was a very important part of Tori's story and her life. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. But anyway,
And
you go on,
yeah.
go on.
No, no, no. Thank you for that. And I know that you just celebrated an anniversary a couple days
30
ago,
years.
right?
Well, 24,
24
yeah,
years.
24 years being out. I was 30
Yes.
years in, 24 years out now.
Right.
It's a long
Right.
time.
It is. And I'm sure there's been, just, if you want to tell us a little bit about how how things have happened for you over the last 24 years in terms of, I know that pretty soon after you got involved with when did you get involved with the activism part of it? Yeah.
Honestly, what happened is at LAX, when you wake up from a cult, or if you're in an abusive relationship, you kind of need somebody to help you a little bit, I think. I did. And I wrote to Andreas, and once I call it The Truman Show. There's a movie called The Truman Show. And if you watch it, that's exactly how Scientology and most cults work. It's like you're insulated in, they cut off all your friends that don't like the cult. And so all you're ever hearing is love bombing and, hearing the cult stuff. So I asked Andreas. Andreas had helped me on the internet and said, look, nobody can understand what you're saying. And that's a whole different story. But I made a whole escape series that anybody can watch on my YouTube site, Tory Magoo 44. And it's Tory, as you can see, because everyone always does I, and then they go, I can't find it. But anyway, I made a 10-part escape series because most people ask very similar questions and of the escape story. So I just answered those questions so people can see it. But anyway, Andreas helped me, and now I forgot your question.
When did you get involved with activism and speaking out?
Okay, thank you. So at LAX, I had called. What had happened was I said, I've got to get out of here. And Stacy and Bob Minton and Jesse Prince, Stacy and Bob were in the Church of Scientology, very top executives. Jesse helped run the church, and then they woke up and left. Bob Minton was a multimillionaire free speech advocate who was in it. And the three of them started what's called the Lisa McPherson Trust, which was in Clearwater, Florida. And Lisa McPherson was in Clearwater and ended up trying to get out of Scientology. And they ended up taking her, locking her in a room and for 17 days. And there's a website about Lisa McPherson, and she's dead. So they started the Lisa McPherson Trust in honor of her and to help people get out. So they called me. Stacy said, what do you want to do? I said, honestly, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, why don't you come here for a week or two and just relax? And I said, well, I can't really afford it. And she said, we'll just get you a ticket. I didn't know Bob was a multimillionaire at the time. So anyway, he bought me the ticket. And at LAX, I still was a Scientologist. By the time I got to Tampa, Florida, they had done so much shit to me that, and pardon my language, but I do swear.
Go ahead.
They had done so much to me that I had become an activist by the time I got to Tampa, Florida. They were there at 1:45 in the morning. So that's how I had said to Stacy, I'm not going to speak out. I'm not going to make videos. I'm not going to pick it. Nothing. I'm just leaving under the radar. But in that time from LAX to Tampa, they did so much stuff, canceling my van, following me, canceling the plane, the vice president at LAX, following me around all the way. Bob got me a first class ticket so I could get into a private room and get rid of her. Then I think I'm okay. I got to Chicago and my husband's there going, Tory, what are you doing? We need to go on a vacation. Anyway, it was awful. And then at 1:45 in the morning, they're there. So basically, by the time I finally walked off the plane at 1:45 in the morning in Tampa, I knew all the stuff that these critics had been telling me for years was true. I didn't think it was, but it was.
So it's pretty immediate then. What you decided, hey, I gotta speak out. I gotta somehow.
I kept thinking if I can help one person not get suckered into this cult, it's worth all the shit that I knew they would throw at me, which was a lot back then. This was in 2000. And there was really only 4 people speaking out. And I had posted my name and phone number on the internet, thinking there were only 50 people on the internet.
It's amazing. Yeah, right. Just a little bit more than that, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, and obviously I know you from your videos. I know you from getting to know your story online predominantly, but you strike me as a woman with strength, some kind of really deep sense of strength. And maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what my impression is. Where does your strength come from? How do you tap into that? Where does it come from for you?
I'd say my parents. This is my dad. He played for the Chicago Cardinals. See,
Mhm.
44, like I'm Tory Magoo 44. That's in
Yes.
honor of him. And he was very courageous and very strong. And so was my mom. And I really think it came from them. They were both, free speech advocates and just wonderful people. And I really think the strength and courage that I had. My dad had passed away at 51. I woke up when I was 53. Now that's not, it was years later. I was 22 when he died. I was 53 when I woke up. But I kind of always felt like he was near me, and I just kind of beamed up to him and said, I don't know what to do. And he just went, get out of LA. That's what I got. So that's why I said to Bob and Stacy, I've got to get out of here. And they said, okay, we'll get you a ticket. Just go to LAX and, you
Right.
can come here. It sounded really simple when they said it. I had no idea Scientology would cancel the van, cancel the plane, be at LAX, everything.
But how wonderful that even if your dad, whether he was physically present in your life or not, after he passed on, he was still such a presence in your life
Yeah,
to give
he
you that
still
strength.
is. Yeah, he really is. He's a great guy, and he's helped me all my life. And people come up to me all the time because he helped them also. He was really big on helping people, and so people come up to me all the time. Both my parents, because my mom was really funny, and so people like Halloween, they'll say, "Your mom scared us to death every Halloween," and this to this day, they're still writing about him. It's really funny, and people come up to me. I wish. And this is the thing I always say to people. If you love someone, make sure you tell them. Because I did. I'd written my dad a letter telling him everything. I'm so sorry for being such an idiot when I was as a teenager. And here's all my plans and blah, blah, blah. And, and how much I loved him and thanked him. And I'm the only one in our entire family and my entire life. People come up to me to this day and say, I wish I could have told your dad thank you for teaching me baseball or football or whatever. He was a professional football player. So he said to everyone on our block, I grew up in a suburb of Chicago. And he
Mhm.
said, I'm going to teach you all how to play every sport. And they went, well, I don't know how to do blah, whatever. And he goes, it doesn't matter. I'll teach you. And when you get good, then you can decide if you want to do it for the rest of your life or not.
What a wonderful thing for him to do
Yeah.
and
And
to
my
to give
mom
back
had
to community. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys will love this. My mom had a thing where she hated people being excluded, right? So she built a family room behind our house, and she said, this is going to be our homework room and party room. So we're going to start having parties, and everyone is invited. I'm going to teach you guys how to dance. This was when we were little. And then anybody who is sitting around and they're not dancing, your job is to get them included into your group of friends and dancing.
Dancing with Magoo.
Yeah.
I like that. And how long did you have your mom in your life for? How long was she
Oh,
with you?
years. She died in, I think, around 2014 or around there.
Okay.
Long time.
Um,
She was 85 by the time she passed away. But she'd unfortunately married a really creepy guy and got, that was a whole nother. I was in the Scientology con. She was in the con with this guy that she married. So she went from being over a millionaire to completely homeless.
mm,
I did not know that, Tori. That's new information.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was really, it's an awful story. It really is. Because it's Florida, and these two guys, Eddie and Freddie, they never met them. And
Eddie
I
and
called their friends afterwards and I
Mhm.
said, why did you help them? And my mom, and they said, Tori, she wouldn't listen to us. And you
Mm.
can't make someone do something.
And I find irony in that, since your mom is the one who made you get back on your epilepsy, your seizure medication.
I know, isn't it? She saved my life. She really did.
Yes.
Um, Thank you for that, Kayla, because I when I wanted to ask a little bit about that, just in terms of, again, not anything related to Scientology per se, but um, how did how do you feel? Did your experience with epilepsy change your perspective of life at all? I don't remember exactly when you were diagnosed with epilepsy and said had the the seizures, but oftentimes I'll talk to people with different conditions and in my work as a therapist and
Sure.
we just talk about coping with it, how people view you, how you view yourself. How did it change? Did it change your perspective?
Oh, well, first of all, it didn't until I got in Scientology. I got it when I was 18. We were driving down a street, and lights apparently affect the brain. And we were going through all these trees. We were driving by trees with the sunlight coming through. And I was having what are called petite malls, which I didn't know at the time. And I said to my mom, I'm having these like little blackouts. And she was like, oh, okay, we'll have to check that out. So then we started flying around looking at different universities for me to go to. And we were in Washington, D.C. And I called, she said, I think Mary Dell lives here. So I called her, who was a friend from our other suburb we lived in. And the next thing I knew, I was in the hospital with, all the things on my head, having an EEG, and I'd had a grand mal seizure. So okay, there they put me on medicine. That handled it. I didn't have any more seizures. So it was like I was fine. And until I got in Scientology and I joined the Sea organization, which is their, little unit that runs Scientology. And I was out on a ship in LA Harbor and I ran out of my medicine. The prescription ran out. And I just said to the guy, oh, by the way, I have to refill my prescription. And he sent me to an 18-year-old kid. And that kid said, we're the top 10% of the planet. And we don't take medicine. We're going to handle this. We're going to get you off your medicine. You're going to use, and I'm like, really? And he said, oh yeah, we're going to use Dianetics and CalMag. And those two things will handle it. And, I'm 22. I believed him. I thought, okay, everybody sounded like it would work. And basically, I ended up having so many grand mal seizures. That's why my memory, I forget things. But what one of the guys recently pointed out to me, because I said something like this to him, and he said, really, you only need one word. That's all you need for me. And it's true. It's like I always say I'm like a tree. And, you get off on a limb and then you get off on a little branch. And then it was like, what was I talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But I just need that one word and then I'm okay. I'm back. And that really helped me.
And I'm going to say thank you to Tory, because her telling me that on the phone, she actually helped me, because I lose my words from the seizures, from the epilepsy. And so Tory gave me some great advice about, because I know what I'm trying to say, but it literally doesn't come out. And
right.
She said, start describing it, and somebody around you will figure out what you're trying to say. They'll give you the word, because if you describe like that, she said, like a house, the windows, the poor, like if somebody, I know that's what I'm in it, there you go. So she actually gave me some really helpful advice I'd never been given before. Thank you for that.
Isn't that so great when that happens? It's like so important for us. So Scientology, because of how awful they are, I mean, they are awful against mental health. Awful. I mean, awful like you can't even imagine. I know 17 children, young people, not children, but, from 16 to 26, who've all taken their lives, Scientologists. They're dead. And that's, if they could have gone to a therapist, I'm positive they would be alive today. They just wanted out, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing. And I think they just all figured, all right, that's it, and.
I noticed, so back to Tory's seizures, her epilepsy, we use a lot of medication that is, dual purpose. And Gretchen, I'm talking about, like it has an intended effect. You're prescribing it for but then it also has, I've lost the word. but you have an intended effect and a
unintended, or yeah, it's off
I lost
label.
the word. This is what happens. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes. So yes, and then so, a different effect. And so with seizure medications, what happens is, because I take them too, is their intended effect was original desired effect. It came back to me. Their intended effect was to treat mental illness, but they found out that the desired effect, it actually helped control seizures with people in epilepsy. So that may be why I wasn't there. I'm not saying this is fact, just saying that may be one of those crossovers that someone else knew, and they were like, no, that's mental health drugs.
No, they're against all medicine,
Okay.
except for antibiotics. Anyone with any kind of physical illness, you are a degraded being. That's how they look at you. So for 30 years, people would take me in a room and say, did you get off your medicine yet? Did you handle epilepsy? And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like, oh, okay. So bad. I mean, it upset me so much that I finally called an executive and I said, look, that's it. I can't take this shit anymore. You know my condition. So give me your phone number and I'm going to give it to these people because they bug me every day. I'm going to give them your phone number and you can tell them my story. And it worked out great because no one ever called him, but it gave me that distance of like, they'd go, well, have you handled epilepsy yet? And I'd say, you know what? Here's Joe's phone number. You can call Joe. He'll tell you about it. But it really helped. It really did. If anybody listening is in a situation where you are surrounded by people that are like bugging you on anything, did you get a divorce yet? It's like, here's Mary's number. You can call Mary. She'll tell you about it because I'm done. I'm not talking about it. You know what I mean? It's just like, you don't need to because it's too upsetting to the individual, I think. At least it was to me.
But I appreciate that, what you just said, Tory, because I talk a lot about my work about boundaries, and that's setting a big boundary. And of what I know, I'm a never in, but what I know about Scientology, they in auditing and what have you, there's not a lot of boundaries.
No.
They ask you whatever they feel like and more, right?
Oh yeah.
So I bet that was a big kind of switch for everybody. Like, okay, and they probably didn't want to call Joe because maybe they were scared to or intimidated, I'm guessing.
Who knows? I just think
Yeah.
It's like Scientologists are a lot like the Matrix. Like they see you and they go, okay, this is how she looks. This is what she's saying. This is the tone level she is. This is this. This is that. Okay, that's the box we can put her in. And that's how they are, every one of them. And so I used to say, because this is where they declare you suppressive and no one can talk to you. No one. They're not allowed to, or they'll be declared suppressive. The other end of it is your PTS, you're a potential trouble source, which of course they decided my mother was, because they go, well, who's antagonistic to Scientology? Well, my mom, right? Not because of Scientology, but because of them taking me off my medicine. So now I forgot what you were saying. What was it?
No, I was just saying about boundaries too, about boundaries, that they don't have boundaries, and you were able to set a boundary while you were there.
Right. But they considered anybody with any kind of illness or anything PTS. Like, in other words, you have to be connected to an SP. So you'll see people all the time, they start to sneeze and they're like, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, cold. Don't let anybody know.
No, I'm fine. They're not, but they just, like people with MS, people with, diabetes. They tried to, my auditor, she said, look, because I said, look, if you're going to try to get into my medicine, just forget it. It's not going to happen. She said, don't worry, Tory, I have diabetes and they're always trying to get me off my medicine for diabetes. And she said, I'm not going to either.
Reese is diabetic, and she's, it's nothing that I'm saying that she hasn't told everyone, but she has, I need to ask her about that. That is something that's an interesting question. I would like to ask Reese how they treated, if that's the same thing that she went through with her diabetes.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you chose this to have
It was
epilepsy?
torture. It was really torture. It helped me get out. That's the only good thing about epilepsy, is that I honestly think of all the stuff that I saw, that was the worst. And I felt like it was like trying to swim up Niagara Falls to handle epilepsy, right? Because it's not going to happen. It's like my mom said, it's not a psychosomatic illness, Tory. These people are going to kill you. You need your medicine, right? So she was the one who said, either you're on your medicine tonight, because she started calling me every day, and she said, okay, what are you doing tonight? I said, oh, I'm going out on a date. She said, okay, I'll call you tomorrow. So she called me the next day, and she goes, how was your date? And I said, what date? And she said, okay, that's it. And her father was a doctor, and I think they were like tag teaming on it. And he was like, you got to get her back on her medicine. So my mom said, look, either you're on your medication today and your doctor calls me and tells me you're on your medication, who was L. Ron Hubbard's doctor, or I'm going to personally fly out there. And believe me on this, Tory, L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Scientology will never forget your mother. And so I always say to parents, it's really important to stay on top of your kids. Don't be thinking, oh, they're okay. This group is handling. No, they're not. I would have been dead. Another person who had epilepsy is dead because they were in Scientology. They got him off all his medicine. He's dead.
No one takes accountability, and
no.
I mean, they won't take accountability.
No.
Well, and speaking to your point, Tory, it's what you said was really important. Keeping that communication and relationship with family and friends and loved ones, because even if they're in a situation right now, whatever, like you said, even if it's not necessarily a oppressive cult-like group, it's something else. They might be in a situation where they feel like there's not a way out. And so being able to keep a line of communication open and doing it seems like your mother did it in a very caring and, firm but caring way.
No, she was firm. She was really, but I knew, my dad was on NBC TV broadcasting in the 60s with Kurt Gowdy. So I thought, now, wait a minute. I know my mom. She's not going to just come out and get mad at them. She's going to be on TV telling every parent, don't let your kids get in this, because
talk about a potential trouble source.
Yeah,
get them on mad. Get them on mad.
Right. Yeah.
Don't mess with mom.
So that's what I was telling you, though. I forgot that. It was like swimming up Niagara Falls, trying to handle epilepsy, right? And then finally, when I went on the internet and I was posting those 4,000, I did post 4,000 posts in 2 weeks, right before I woke up. But I didn't read any of the internet. See, that's the thing. You said you were reading it. I said, no. I was too afraid to read it because my friend went insane on the internet. So per my auditor and best friend, Bill Yachty, it turned out after I escaped out, she called me and said, Tory, I didn't go insane. They drugged me and reverse audited me. Auditing makes you better. Reverse auditing makes you worse. Because she was an undercover plant. But I wasn't an undercover. I was out PR. I was like in PR, out handling people and stuff. But she was top secret. She went out to see David Mayo, who was a guy who left. And she would come back and report it. And then she started waking up. And so they drugged her.
I do have a question, Tory. Can you explain just a little bit for those who don't know about reverse auditing?
I can't really. I never heard the term. I don't even know what it is, except that it happened to me. I realized, like for me, I figured, okay, with clear is supposed to be a perfect memory, a perfect IQ, no somatics, no pains. That's the original definition by L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, so if you have epilepsy, that's not going to happen, right? It's just, memory right away, forget it. No pains, no somatics. No, it's not going to work. So someone asked me about that. When are you going to go clear? And I said, I don't know, probably next lifetime. I have to get a new body in order to go clear. So the next thing I know, one of Hubbard's sons, Arthur Hubbard, takes me out to lunch. And he says, what's your story? And I start telling him And this is the first time I realized, wow, maybe they set this up. I don't know. Because it was so weird. It was like people always ask me, how did Arthur Hubbard take you to lunch? And I'm like, I don't know. I really didn't know until this second. I'm realizing, oh my God, maybe she said that thing to them about Tory doesn't think she can go clear until next lifetime. So I think he took me out to lunch and he said, okay, tell me your story. Because, this was kind of amazing. I tell him the story. I go, I was in college and I read like 2 to 3 chapters of Dianetics about clear. I wanted to be a doctor, but I thought, you know what? I don't have the patience to do 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, internships. And Dianetics, being a Dianetic auditor, sounded almost as close to being a doctor, not at all, because it doesn't work, but I thought so. So Arthur Hubbard said, well, what's your deal? And I said, I read these chapters about clearing people, and I realized, wow, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I quit college, and this is true, and I hitchhiked from Chicago, Lake Forest to Los Angeles, which is a long way to hitchhike all by yourself. But it was 1969 and people were hitchhiking still. So anyway, I hitchhiked there and he goes, oh my God, you were a last lifetime clear. And I'm like, clear came out in 1950, right? But so I was sort of like, I was born in 47. He goes, yeah, but my dad was doing research then. He was probably doing research with you. And all of a sudden, it all kind of clicked together like dominoes where, oh, okay, it works. So then I attested to last lifetime clear. And then I could go on to do the OT levels, which is more money for them. Do you see what I mean? They wanted to keep me doing.
They wanted to keep you hooked in.
I heard the same thing about last lifetime clear yesterday on Aaron and Jenna talking. And Jenna said, I never was clear, but I finally attested to past lifetime clear.
Right.
It was just like I don't know, a merry-go-round.
I know it's so weird, but that's the thing you asked me about what was the thing you asked me about? Reverse auditing.
Yes, ma'am.
So now roll forward from Dianetics, Scientology is like a triangle. So, I'm working my way up and I'm all the way up at the top here. Clear is like about way, way, way down here. I'm all the way up at the top and someone says, no, wait, now I forgot. See, it happens. What's the word? What was it? What was I talking?
Someone said you were up here at the top of the triangle. And
I know, but what was I saying right before that?
Reverse auditing.
Okay, reverse auditing. All right, good. So I get up to the top. I forgot what I said. That's
all right. I totally understand.
I want to finish it. I have to finish it. What was it?
Is there anything keeping you back from the OT8?
I didn't want to do OT8. By the time I'd done OT7, I was on OT7 for 7 years. Yeah. It didn't work at all. And so by the time I left, I was just done. But that was the thing. I never finished this other story. I felt like I was swimming upstream. Now I was making those 4,000 posts and meeting critics, not meeting them, but they were on there saying stuff. And they declared me an honorary SP3, right? I opened it up and they said, Magoo, you are the worst Scientologist we've ever known. So we're declaring you honorary SP3. And I said, no, I can't accept that. No. And I shut down my computer and turned it off. And I was just like, that's it. No, I'm not posting anything else on the internet. That's it. And then I'm vacuuming around my house and I'm thinking, honorary SP3. And all of a sudden I got the joke. It was just like, it's just bullshit, right? But that little sentence, that did it for me. And I just was like, oh. And so I went back on the internet and I said, okay, I'm accepting the honorary SP3. And then that was a big change for me because now I was not really a Scientologist. Do you see what I mean? I was an honorary SP3.
Now you're a true SP.
I know, but that was sort of like trying to swim up Niagara Falls. And
Right.
I felt like someone said, you know, you can really just take an inner tube and just slide down, and it's really easy. And it was like 30 years of this, and then, you know, and I was out.
I love what you say all the time about the quickest way getting out of Scientology.
Yeah, well, Hubbard says the way out is the way through. So it's like you have to keep on the path and keep going. But what did he do? He took off. So I always say that the way out is the nearest door.
I love
Get the door and open it up and walk out. And that's true for any abuse of any kind. You know, it's like the way out is the nearest door. And the other thing I will say is please listen to your parents or your friends, because that is the biggest, just like my mom, she was a millionaire and ended up, because she wouldn't listen to her friends, she only listened to that guy who was abusive.
Yeah. That kind of, you kind of partially answered this question I wanted to ask you, is about overcoming challenges. How do you now overcome challenges in life? Adversity, obstacles. How does that work for you? And it sounds like maybe part of that is listening to the people that you trust around you, maybe is part of it.
I think so. And I still read a lot of books, and I have a couple of books that I love. One is called The Four Agreements. Have either of you read that?
Yes, I love that book.
I keep that next to my bed, and whenever I'm upset, I just get it out. And every time it's like, oh my God, this is, you know, it just nails it every time. And the other one is Blink. Have you ever read Blink?
I haven't read Blink.
It's really good. It's about your first instincts. And if you think about it, like my first instinct on Scientology was that Hubbard, because he had these big photographs up, and I was outside and I thought, God, he looks like Adolf Hitler. And then the Sea Org were all marching around in their military uniforms. And I had spent 2 years fighting the Vietnam War as a hippie. So I thought, what is this? And they were super organized. And being a hippie, that wasn't my thing. So if I listened to my instincts, I would have just left. And I should have just left. But in a way, I'm happy. I don't believe in regret. And I have my son. And I wouldn't have had my son if I'd left. So in that sense, it's good that I met my husband, married him. We had my son. We had our son. He's still in. My ex-husband is still in. So he won't.
Do you have any? Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask.
I was saying the name of that book because I was writing. My pen didn't work. Before that.
Blink. Oh, The Four Agreements.
Thank you.
It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's the author.
Thank you.
Really good book. Really good book.
It is a good, and it's a short read. It's not really a huge book.
And it's one you can open up anywhere and go, oh my God, this totally helps me.
Yes. And they're each one, the Four Agreements, they have a kind of a topic, and it's kind of neat. You can read the chapters kind of individually in a way.
Oh wow.
I was going to ask.
One last thing on the Four Agreements is a lot of people say, oh yeah, I've read that book, but they're still having problems. And I say, then keep it next to your bed and keep reading it, because it's not just something you can read and you're done. Right. It's something you really need to read and use. It's a daily use, or not daily, but whenever you need it, get it out.
Yeah. And it takes some time to read. For me, it was when I was reading it, you read it and then you kind of process it. It's it's a short book, but it's also like you have to, at least this is how I read it. It's like you read maybe a paragraph and you really just kind of digest it for a while,
Yeah.
What keeps you, what motivates you now to keep active in what you do? I mean, I see you, and I'm a night owl, but I think you take that to a whole new level, Tory, with your being out by the big blue building and being out and then doing your stream late at night. I'm like you, I'm on the West Coast, so we're a little bit earlier, but still, even for me, it's later. What keeps you motivated to keep going in this?
Honestly, the Church of Scientology does it every time. For years, I've been out for 24 years, and for years I'll go, okay, I'm done, I'm quitting. And then every time they do something that ticks me off and I go, all right, I'm not done. I mean, one time I was like, done. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm done. And I'm watching TV and I'm watching a documentary on the Dixie Chicks. Do you know who they are?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Texas, for anybody who doesn't know. And the head singer had said something against Bush at the time. He was the president. And so Texas banned their band from anything. You know, they said, we're not going to play your music at all because you said that one thing. And she wrote this song, I'm mad, but I'm not done yet. And I was like, that's how I was. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm so mad. That's it. And then I watched the documentary. I went, that's me. I'm mad and I'm not done yet. Boom, turned on my webcam. There you go. You know, made another video. So they do it every time. Like now, these kids are like live streamers. I didn't know how to live stream. So I was sort of done before COVID. COVID hit, and I thought during COVID, I think a bunch of people learned how to, you know, put all those things up on a video. Like here's Hamed, here's David Miscavige, you know, here's different things. But I didn't know how to do that. So I thought, all right, you know, you're done. Nobody cares about what you want to say anyway. So you're done. You've already said everything. That's it. So that was it. And then my friend who never was in Scientology calls me up and he goes, Tory, turn on TikTok. And I said, okay, Andrew, you know I don't do TikTok. And he goes, okay, I don't care. Turn on TikTok and type in Jessica Palma-Dessa. And I do. And there's Jessica. I think she's like 23 or something. And she's like this long blonde hair. And this guy's like right up in her face, you know, with a camera. And she's like, do you think I'm intimidated by this? I have like 2 million followers on TikTok and they're all watching you right now. Right. And I just think, oh my God, this is a whole new level that they're not used to. And then she walked into the testing center and they're like, get out. And she does the same thing. You know, I've got the 2 million followers and we're all worried about your security guard. So anyway, I wanted to meet her. So I said to my friend who I used to protest with, I said, let's go find the kids. So we drive around, they're not there. We drive around to Celebrity Center, they're not there. So we go to the complex, which is the big blue building, and we see them. There they are. There's nothing on L. Ron Hubbard Way anymore, ever. You know, it's now they have it shut down and they pretend like they have all these festivals, but nobody's ever there. So the kids were there in the middle of the block. So we drive down to talk to them. And I say, Jessica, I really want to learn how to do this. And she goes, all right, I'll come over Monday night. So she came over and did an interview with me, talked to me. And I said, you know, I don't know how to do all those, you know, put up all those photographs. And she goes, you don't need to. Everybody just wants to hear your stories. They don't care about all that shit. Mm-hmm. So I said, really? And she said, yeah, really. So I was going to do it in the day, but then I kept watching in the day. And there's so many people now that stream in the day. And I'm a night owl. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, why not do Midnight with Magoo?
I love it.
I like it too for when I'm a night owl.
What did you say?
I said, I love it when I can't sleep, I go to Tory. And then usually though, when I am sleeping, I catch her first thing in the morning and I always tell her good morning.
I know it's so great. I mean, someone pointed out to me, I'm the only streamer that has 4 continents, you know, that are watching.
You do. There's a lot of people in there.
Yeah, because there are people from London and Brazil and Canada and the United States and, you know, different people pop on.
New Zealand, yes, for sure.
Keilah, sorry, I've been hogging all.
No, go ahead. I'm looking for something actually.
Okay. Did I answer your questions, Gretchen, that you asked?
You did. Yeah, of course you did. Yes.
I don't think I did about the courage, though. Did I?
About, I asked you what motivates you to keep going. You answered that. And how do you overcome challenges? That one?
Oh, yeah. And I said, generally, or I think you said, what keeps you going? And I said, the Church of Scientology.
Yes.
Because they, like even recently, now the kids have been doing these live streams. So now they're sending out packets to their parents with photographs saying how evil all of us are and that they've got to get their kids away from them. And I said, perfect. So now you have proof of why you do what you do. And they all went, yeah, it's true. It's like my parents, a couple of them said, yeah, my parents kind of wanted me to stop doing this. But now that they got the packets, they're in. It's like, do it.
Yeah. I had just one last thing I was gonna, well, actually, yeah, one last question, but I couldn't help myself, Tori. I'm a therapist, I'm a psychologist, one of those evil people that Scientology tells you about and warns you
I
about.
don't think they're evil.
I'm just kidding. But I, if if there would be a message you could tell your younger self, what would it be?
Go to college or get trained in some kind of a trade, but get trained in something that you want to do for a very, very long time, because you don't realize how long you're going to work when you're young,
Mhm.
but you are going to work. You have to work. And I ended up just doing all kinds of, sales jobs because I was going to be an auditor. That's what I thought. But that didn't work out. And I wasn't really trained in anything. So I became a salesperson and I'm really good at that. But I would say get trained in something that you're interested in. Think about your interests. And you can even go online and they have different tests that you can do to see what you're interested in. Don't do the Scientology personality test.
Or the stress test.
Stay
Um,
away. It's not from
and,
Stanford. Stay away.
and knowing what you know now, even like you said, getting trained, you said you didn't have the patience to be a doctor. Could you think about what you might, I mean, looking back on it, if you didn't get into Scientology, what would you might have chosen? I mean, that's kind of a hypothetical question, I suppose,
No,
but
I could have done I could have been a counselor. You can get trained as a counselor, which doesn't
right,
take as long.
right.
I could have done a lot of different things in the medical field that would help, anything that helps other people. That's what I was looking for. So, I
Well,
could have, but, and I think it's important for young people because I live in LA. So thousands of people fly here, move here, and they're young kids and they're going to get in the industry and be, because they see on the internet all these kids that are making millions. Not all, but there are people that are making lots and lots of money, and they think, well, I can be that way too.
mhm,
But I still say get trained in something. So until you make it as whatever, especially artists, actors,
Yeah.
singers,
right.
until you make it, you need something that brings in income, or else you just look like the starving artist. And there's 80 million of them out here. So
Yeah.
they end up, and this is why I say trades, because I started running into people like at Ross Shoes. And I said to this lady, why are you selling shoes? Why don't you go to college? And she goes, I have a master's degree, Tori, but I can't get a job out here.
Mm,
There aren't jobs. So that's why I say, think of a trade, because
mhm,
especially in the medical field, see, because we also have to think of AI. It's not just a trade, but it's a trade that AI can't take over. And
right.
like the medical field, that you can learn how to draw blood. That sounds kind of not exciting, but like my friend said who works for the gas company, it's not exciting, but I make a shitload of money.
There you go.
I will say a lot of trades nowadays. I
Yeah.
mean, speaking to your point, Tori, there have been a really big need for a lot of different industries, including
Right,
nursing has been a huge need recently.
right.
And I've talked to many nurses that are, I mean, they can pick and choose what they want now, where that wasn't the case 10, 20 years ago.
No, no, yeah,
But whether it's a woodworker, a plumber, electricians make a lot. I mean,
uh,
there's so many different trades and areas that the person can
right,
go into that
right.
can be quite lucrative.
Yeah, very lucrative.
Yeah.
And
Cu-
then you have a
mhm.
base. So then at night or whenever you're not working, you can work on you know, if you want to be an actress or, whatever. I just know so many people who, end up never getting to do either because they don't get trained in anything. So they're working at some crummy job and they'd never get into whatever field they wanted to get into.
Yeah.
So that's my message to myself.
There you go. I like it.
Don't join Scientology or any other cult.
Well, I found I'm sorry, Tory.
Well, just make sure people learn about mind control and cults. You can go on YouTube and type those in and learn about them.
Dr. Steve Hassan has a great book about that.
What is it?
Dr. Steve Hassan.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine.
That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah, we've done some work together.
Yeah, Doug said that's what made him realize, hey, I'm in a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about your YouTube channel earlier, and I think, can we put it? I can't see the chat right now.
I'm sure that they've got. Hang on, I can look.
Can we?
They put it in there.
Can we go in and say what her channel? Because please go and subscribe.
It's all in there. It's all in there.
Okay, but
click the link, subscribe, like, please.
Tory Magoo 44.
Yep, it's
that's
in
her
there.
YouTube channel. TORY, not I.
Yeah, the link's in the chat.
Okay, great.
The mods have taken care of that. They links in the chat. Do y'all want to take some questions from the chat?
Okay.
Because we have several started. Before we get off, I do have one last thing I'm going to ask Tory, but I'm going to wait until the end.
No, do it now. Do it now.
Well, no, it's for the end. To end it, I wanted to ask you a question. Yeah. Look, so Sophie is here.
Good. Hi, Sophie.
She said Scientology is pretty allergic to boundaries, it seems.
Totally. They are completely, it's their way or the highway. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Hockeytown John, one of our mods. He said, hi, Tory. Just wanted to say what an honor it is to have you here. You're an inspiration to so many who want to bring the Church of Scientology down. You are a hero.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Hockeytown John.
And Mr. I call Mark Bunker, wise beard man. This is our wise young man.
Okay.
Blake Reed. He said, Tory, what do you think the person that told you you were in a past lifetime clear was trying to gain by saying that? I was going to keep it one, or do you think something got you triggered that program response?
No, there was nothing. Well, that's a good question. Let's see. What do you think the person that told you you were a past lifetime clear was trying to gain by saying that? I think I just thought of this today. I had never thought of it before. I thought it was just a coincidence. But today I thought maybe they, knowing them, they're so coercive. Now, the reason I didn't think this before is because Arthur Hubbard is really not part of the church. He's Hubbard's son, but he's an artist and he was kind of away from it. So I didn't really think they would have, be able to manipulate him, but they might have just gotten with him and said, look, just find out what her story is. And then he might have just said, oh, you're a last lifetime clear, which was new back then when he said it. Nobody had come up with that. But I don't think it was a triggered response. I think it was he saying it. It was a triggered response once he said it. Then I went, oh, okay, and kind of put it in my head how it could have worked.
So the actual save Scientologists lots and lots of money is I've been mocking up my own reactive mind and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm clear.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that cognition, and you're not allowed to say it. No one else can say it. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was just at one point I said, I think I'm just making this stuff up. And they went, okay, would you like to attest to clear? And this was after hours and hours of auditing. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is the clear cognition? That was my thought, like the Homer Simpson bubble, like, come on. But I went, okay. Yeah, sure. Because I wanted to get to OT3 because everyone kept telling me OT3 was what would save my life.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it would handle epilepsy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Here you go. Let's see from Irrelevant Panda. At work, but just hopped on to say, Tory, you're incredibly loved and appreciated. You're an incredible inspiration, not just for your strength, but for your positive outlook and communication.
Thank you. Thank you, Irrelevant Panda.
I want to say something about that. I will chime in on that. Tory can do more with her words and her conversation than I believe anything else being effective. Like everybody is effective in their own way, but Tory has this down to perfection when it comes to talking someone, to speaking to someone, even when I'm on the other side going, please let me get to California, because if he talks to her like that one more time, he's not going to have any teeth left, that kind of feeling you have blowing up in you. But Tory's just taking it and then wait for it, and here it comes.
I would second that.
Really?
Yes, I would. That stream the other day, that you were talking to that individual that came up, and it was again that kind of what we're talking about with your mother, the firm but caring. It really seemed to be there. It was like, listen, I'm setting boundaries. I want you to go there. Don't come here. And there was a respect there that I think that you can get that's very effective. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
That was on the Midnight with,
as we call the kids, which they're not kids, but they're younger than us, so I call them the kids.
Yeah.
They are learning so much from you.
Yeah,
they are learning so much from you, and I think you can't put a price on that, Tory. So thank you for passing your wisdom down to them.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. I'm really big for anybody listening on not getting into us versus them, because you have to know I work with the Office of Special Affairs, which is Scientology's super dark, basically mafia. They say it's PR and legal, and it is PR and legal, but it's also all their dark stuff, right? And so because my auditor asked me to help him, I know what happened. He knew I wouldn't work with OSA. If they said, we need you to do this, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing it. But because he said he needed it and I trusted him, and I'd said in session, I'd give you my life. If I'd jump in front of a bullet for you. So they went, that's our mark. You know what I mean? They looked at the folders and went, okay, she'll do anything. So that's where that started.
That's really sad.
Huh?
That's really sad to hear that, because they take advantage of your vulnerabilities, your trust, things like that.
Yeah. That's why I say, it's like, get out if you're in a cult or abusive relationship, because it only gets worse. But there was something I was telling you, and now I got off onto my branch and I can't remember it.
The us versus them?
Yes. That's right. Thank you. Because the us versus them is their first thing was distract off of anything they don't want anybody to see. Like Hubbard was a liar. He was married to 3 women instead of 2, stuff like that. They don't want people to see that. But the second thing was divide and conquer, get people fighting. And I stood next to Bill Yachty. He was on the internet typing away. I didn't know what he was doing. He was typing away. And all of a sudden he goes, bingo. He jumps up, lights a cigarette. Goes, okay, we got it. Let's go to dinner. And I said, you got what? And he goes, these people are going to be fighting for hours, days, weeks. Believe me, they're going to be at each other forever. So let's go to dinner. That's their goal. So it's like you have to know when you get into that. And it's not that people can't disagree. Obviously, we have disagreements. But when it's an intended where it just goes on and on and on, I've told my site, this is not what I'm going to do. I refuse to give them statistics. So I'm not going to get into that. I say, pick up the phone and talk to the person. If you have a disagreement, talk to them. Because texting I've watched it for 24 years, and it is so easy to say that, and the other person hears boop, boop, boop. And you go, wait, I'm saying that, and they're going, dot, 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 and now it's like,
you can't read emotion through text letters, through text.
Right.
So you don't know what that intended is. And so you may be responding wrong. I totally understand that.
Right. So for me, it's like either pick up the phone or stop getting into it. And I call them snarl fests.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Wise young man again. Blake, do you face issues related to anxiety linked to Scientology? I apologize if this is too personal of a question, but my aim is to learn more about the alertness of cult survivors.
Thank you, Blake. I don't, but I think a lot of people do. I had a roommate who was in the C organization of Scientology and got out. His son killed himself, and he was my roommate here. His wife, who is still in, was my best friend. And he suffered from tremendous anxiety. So I've just never had anxiety or depression or anything, but I lived with it and I saw it's very, very deep and it's very difficult. And he didn't have therapy, and he wouldn't really read books or anything.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to do something proactive. That's what I learned from him. From watching him, it's like you have to do something proactive. You have to get with a therapist or start reading books or do something that you start feeling better. And if you're not feeling better, like my brother, or not my brother, but one of my relatives suffers, I think, from that. And his solution was running. So he would just run like 10, 15 miles a day.
At least those happy endorphins.
Yeah.
Right. The runner's high, they call it, but it's a high, like natural, healthy, mood elevating thing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So and here we go. Power lies to paralyze. I love you, Tory. Thanks for everything. It's made all the difference.
Thank you. Wow, that's nice. That's a cool nick. Power lies to paralyze. Wow.
Okay, and let's see. We have DJ. Hey, Nico. You're an inspiration, Tory. People like you helped me choose my future line of work. Got to study first, but yeah, always enjoy you all.
Oh, that's so great. That makes me so happy. It really does. Thank you, DJ Nico.
Yeah, Nico, he is such a sweetie. Okay, let's see. Miss Sunrise Dawn. I could sit and listen to these three amazing ladies all day. Tory's stories are so fascinating. I agree with Tory's part of it, yes.
That's my grandfather. My grandfather was a doctor, but he was a great storyteller. And to this day, we don't know if some of his stories were stories or if they're true. He told us, we're from Chicago. We're city kids, right? And we went to Kansas City where they lived. And he grew up in North Dakota. And so he was like, yeah, well, we'd say, oh, tell us kind of what our North Dakota's like. And he goes, well, my one time we were waiting for the bus and my teacher got eaten by wolves. And we're like, really? And I mean, he had a way of building up to it. So it was so scary. I mean, to this day, we're like, was his teacher eaten by wolves? And my son is like, Mom, wolves don't eat people.
That's a good one.
But I really have to give him the credit for that and my dad too. My dad was really good at telling stories too.
Let's see. This one is from Jazzy Girl Sarah. Thank you for being here, Tory. Such an honor to hear you talk about your life.
Oh, thank you, Jazzy Girl. I appreciate that. I really do. Yes. I really do. I am ever shocked, and I say this to everyone. If you have anything that you feel like, you're kind of either lonely or you have something that you have, maybe you could talk about, start a YouTube site because people will join. And I really didn't think anybody would. I really didn't. Mark Bunker started my YouTube site in 2008. And I said, what are we going to do with this? He goes, this is from Anonymous, because they had taken on the Church of Scientology. He goes, here's your webcam. And I go, well, what am I going to do with that? He goes, we're going to start your YouTube site. And I said, what am I going to do with the YouTube site? And he said, well, we're going to make the first video. Magoo has a YouTube site. And it just went from there. You know, it was just really surprising. And Anonymous, I will say, they were a miracle for me. I had been like, I felt like I was in an alley being raped by the Church of Scientology for 8 years. And no one would speak out. No one would stand up. All these people that are activists now, they were in the church. And I was like, please, would someone say something? Or they were chatting, but they wouldn't say their name. And so finally, when Anonymous took on the Church of Scientology, there were 500 people at the end of L. Ron Hubbard Way. And
do you have a quick second to tell your story about getting on the train?
About getting on the train?
To go.
Yeah. You want me to?
If you don't mind, I love this story.
I know, it's a really fun story.
It is.
I had made a post saying, oh, bullshit. You know, these guys aren't really anonymous. You know, this is just OSA trying to distract off this book about Tom Cruise, right? Because that's what they did. And instead, they call me up. They go, this is anonymous. And I'm in this room, this exact room. And I'm like, and I have this same phone. And I'm like, hello? I'm like totally freaked out. You know, they're like, this is anonymous. And so they put me on Skype. And the plans that they had were very, very dangerous. And I said, look, I'm just going to tell you something. They were young kids, and they really were kids. They were like early 20s or younger. And I said, look, Scientology is going to put you in prison. That's what's going to happen. If you guys do what you're doing, first of all, what you think is there isn't there. And secondly, they're going to put you in prison. And so they said, well, what can we do? And I said, you know, if we do a peaceful protest, which I always have to honor Jeff Jacobson, because he is someone who was never in, but he taught us the Gandhi tech in 2000. And I said, what is that? And he said, just peacefully picket. If you peacefully picket, they cannot arrest you. You're covered by the rights of, you know, protesting. And so anyway, I said to them, and they said, okay, we'll meet at the complex and you can walk us around and we'll see if we're going to do it. So we walk around the complex and they say, okay, we'll have 500 people at February 10th. So February 10th, Mark Bunker and I go to get on the subway. I said, let's just take the subway there, because then we don't have to worry about parking. So we get on the subway and there's, you know, Anonymous is like, what is the movie they are? V for Vendetta. Mm-hmm. That's their outfit. So they have on the V for Vendetta mask and all black. And it's like 10 of them. They're in like 3 different rows of that. And the rest of the subway is like this. You know, they're completely freaked out. And I get on with my little stop sign saying, Scientology, stop hurting families. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, we're with them and we are fighting the Church of Scientology. And they all start clapping, the whole subway. Clapping. So we get off and we think, well, this is anonymous. It's 10 people. It's 10 more than we've had. Okay, that's all right. It's not 500, but it's 10 more than we have. We get off at the subway in Vermont. We walk up to L. Ron Hubbard Way, and there are 500 people with picket signs and cake and music and everything. And it was like, oh my God, it was like heaven for me. And they were like, we're on your side. And they moved me, and it ended up being 9,000 people around the world, and almost every city in the world. They were
doing it like the same time, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. It was all at the same time.
It was all coordinated then.
Yes.
Yeah, it was all coordinated by them. And so they boomed me from 0 to 10,000 in one day.
Yes.
And I said, why me? And they said, you're the only one with a video that we liked. You know, but hardly anybody was making videos back then. And I started saying, we got to make a video of this. So when I went to Norway, Andrea said, come to Norway, you know, after I'd been out for a year or two. And I said, okay. So I saved up, went to Norway, and we had to get one of those little mattresses to sleep on at his sister's. So we go to IKEA in Norway. And we walk in, and this person comes up to me right away and goes, Tory Magoo, I've seen your videos. And he
Oh
goes,
my
I
gosh.
can't believe this.
Norway.
I'm Norwegian. I grew up in Norway. I have the giant xenu.net, which is XENU.net. It's a huge, fabulous website about all this stuff. You think, well, what about this with Scientology? It's on xenu.net. So he had created this huge website. And he goes, and no one's ever recognized me. And I said, that's because everything's in writing and it's a video world. This was in the early 2000s. So
thank you for sharing. I love it. I love the story.
it's a
That is a
funny
great story.
Yeah. Okay, so for Heather Mack comment, I've learned things that relate to real life following Tory and other streamers and chatters.
Good,
Yes.
good.
Yes, I agree. I have too. And young bearded man here, Blake. While it's difficult to denote tone in text, yes, I believe that reading between the lines can be very revealing of the intention at play. Length, word choice, and depth all raise different colored flags. You little wisdom man.
All right, Blake. I disagree with you, but we'll have to agree to disagree. You know, to me, I've just had so many. Jesse Prince, I used to get so upset because they had all these people attacking me for 8 years, which is also why I love Anonymous. But they were attacking me all the time. And I would call up Jesse and he would say, okay, listen to me carefully. Step away from the stove. And I had a little sticker on my computer for years, step away from the stove, because I remembered Yachty told me that. He said, you know, the only thing we can't handle is if someone says nothing.
That's right. I mean, that's right.
Right?
All it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to sit back and do nothing.
Right.
So, Miss
But
Sunrise.
this is the opposite of that, though, because that's saying do something, and you're right on that. But as far as Yachty is the bad guy, right? He's the one manipulating people on the internet, and he's saying the only thing he can't manipulate is if someone doesn't answer.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
So it's kind of the opposite.
It's
for
exactly
them,
the opposite.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I'm saying writing is tricky because you can keep writing, and as long as you're writing, they're good. They can keep answering. They know how to, do that game. Okay. So that's right. If you talk to them, you can hear and go, wait a minute, this guy and I are on the same page.
Tory, both of Miss Sunrise Dawn. Sorry about that. Both of my grandfathers were also great storytellers, and now I make a living as a writer. I write fantasy fiction. I hope my grandfathers would be proud.
Oh, I'm sure they would. That is so wonderful.
Absolutely. And our wonderful mods, Mandy. Question: were you ever scared for your actual life? Like you might die or in Scientology or someone might do that to you?
You know, it's interesting that your name is Mandy McGee because I went to Ireland and I said, they flew me, Anonymous, or Pete Griffith and John McGee and Sam flew me over there and a bunch of other declared suppressives to have a conference. And while we were there, I said, let's go by the Scientology Center. I want to see it. So we go outside. There's a little sandwich board saying, welcome, everybody's welcome, right? And so I go, hey, man. And he's got his arms crossed like this, right? And I go, hey, man, what's happening? He goes, nothing. And I go, nothing? I know. I used to work in this department, right? I know what he's supposed to say. And I go, nothing? And he goes, well, it's not for everyone. And I go, it's not? And he runs inside, and Anonymous goes, she shut him down in under a minute. Because they would always time how quickly everybody'd run away when I'd show up. So I go in, and I go up the stairs, and I don't go all the way up. I go halfway up, and these are like really steep stairs. Like, look at my hand. It's like super steep. I hadn't been on stairs like that. And so I go up halfway, and I go to these guys, what are you guys doing? And all of a sudden, this guy comes flying around the corner and shoves me. And remember, the stairs are like this. And I just go flying. And had John McGee not caught me, I would not be here now, or I would either be dead or paralyzed from the neck down. You know, it's unbelievable that he would do that, you know, knowing that. But John Magoo saved my life then. So that was the one time, Mandy, that I was really scared for my life. You know, it was like while I was flying, you know, it was just like.
So, Tory, I think that's all of the start questions. I don't think I missed any of them. I just put a link in the chat for your your channel has already been in the chat, but for dancing in Boston.
Oh, good. Magoo dancing in Boston.
Magoo dancing in Boston, and it's actually Mark's 4K, the one that he yes. So I put that in there just for people to take a look. I want to ask you, and I know we have to go, so I'm going to stay mindful of your time here. But I was going to ask you, what made you get into Scientology at the very beginning?
Dianetics. And wanting to be a doctor and realizing I don't have the oomph to go through all the schooling that is needed to be a doctor. And those two kids from high school bringing me the Dianetics book, and they said, oh, you can keep it. I'm like, really? It was like a hardback Dianetics book. And that was really, well, that, and I had an argument with my dad, and this is a good thing for people to know. Yeah. My dad said, look, you go to bed. And I said, you know, I'm a night owl, right? I was a night owl back then. And I said, Dad, it's 9:30 at night. You know, stop bugging me. I'm in college, right? And he said, look, it's our morals or no school. And that's what did it, honestly. Because I wrote on my lip with lipstick, your morals or no school, screw you. And I loved my dad, but I mean, he would have killed me if, you know, but I knew I wasn't going to see him because I was hitchhiking to LA. At the back of the Dianetics book, it said St. Hill, England, for more information, or American St. Hill in LA. That was it. So I thought, all right, looks like I'm going to LA. So I packed my bag and off I went. But had he not done that, you know, our morals are no school, I probably would have stayed in school. I don't know. Who knows? I would have immediately gone to Scientology. And if I'd read the book Blink, I would have definitely left.
Yeah, I like your advice when you're out there with them, when you tell them, ask them if they can read a book.
Right.
I really like that advice.
Not a Scientology book.
No. Just ask the Scientologist if they're allowed to read whatever book they want. If you're really free, you can read a book.
Right.
I've heard her say that so many times, and it's such great. I mean, it's great wisdom.
Yeah, it helps. It really does. And you can go into a bookstore and just kind of cruise around. Let's say you don't want to do either of these books or anything else you hear, but you can just cruise around a bookstore and kind of open up books and go, wait a minute, I like this book. That's what happened to me. And I just would keep buying these books. And my husband would say, oh, God, you've got another one of your top secret library books. And I said, yeah, I do. And of course, he never asked to read them, which is really weird. You know, education is really huge. It really is, you know, because I think the more educated you are, the less chance, but it doesn't guarantee it. Like Steve Hassan said, you know, it's like, well, actually, these cult experts, Steve wasn't even there yet, but these cult experts flew in and interviewed me because they said, you're the first happy ex-cult member we've ever met. And we want to find out why you're so happy. It's because I read 10 years of books. So I think I've stripped off a lot of the stuff. I was able to talk to Andreas, you know what I mean? Because I
were able to almost like deprogram yourself during that time.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a thing, list out the top 50 people you think you have respect for. So I did. This was in one of the books. So I listed them out. And then at the end, I realized not one of them was a Scientologist. And that was huge for me. It wouldn't be for you or a lot of people, but it was huge for me. It was like, wow, none of them are Scientologists. You know, just another huge crack in my Truman Show.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
No, go ahead, Keilah.
No, I'm just she's actually thank you. I just want to say thank you. That I want to wait till if you're through with questions.
Yeah, I'm done. I wanted, like you said, I want to be cognizant of the time and
Yeah,
respectful, and but I really appreciate you agreeing to talk with us today and
I
talk with
love
us
it.
about, yeah, just
I
various
love
things
that
in
you're
mental
doing
health.
this. Yeah, it's really important because it is one of those things that's not talked about enough.
I
You know
agree
what I mean?
100%.
Right? And it sort of still has kind of a bit of a dark cloud from all kinds of crazy people like Scientologists going, don't go to a therapist, don't go to a psychologist, they're evil, they're horrible, and other people. And so I think the more you have people that talk about the positive of mental health and how it really, helped them tremendously, the better it'll be.
Yeah,
I agree. I
agreed.
do
Yeah.
agree. So
Yeah.
my question to you is, and this is what I wanted to kind of end it on, is for you, if there are any Scientologists, you know, under the bubble, but however you want to call it, that are looking or wanting out, not knowing and being able to find a way, scared of what's out there because SSPs were so bad people. What would you say if you could just simply say something and they could hear you right now? What would you like to tell them?
Okay. I was a person who wouldn't look at anything. So I'm saying to you, either go to a computer if you can find one where your parents or someone that's in Scientology isn't around. Go to a generic computer or the library, because the library has computers you can use also, and just type in www.xenu.net. And no, you won't get pneumonia from it, which L. Ron Hubbard says. And there's tons of factual information about all the side that you don't know. That's what got me kind of waking up. It was like, why are these critics here all the time? They never leave. And it was like, they must know something that I don't know. Do you see what I mean? And we out here must know something you don't know. And all I'm saying is look at both sides. I always tell people, don't believe me because, you don't know if I'm trustworthy or not. But if you look at both sides and you compare both sides, I promise you, you will not go back into any abusive relationship or cult because
Great
you'll know
message.
both sides, right?
Great message. Thank you, Tory.
Yeah. But if you want to go back in after you've looked at both sides, you can say, hey, I looked at both sides. I'm going to be a cult member. Okay, you do that.
Yeah, as long as you're not a kid, do what you want. But
As long as you're not hurting other people, you do what you want. But why hurt yourself? You know what I mean? Like
right.
really look at both sides and really learn both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
All right, Gretchen.
Yeah. Well, like I said, thank you, and thanks for everyone that came in today to watch and to listen
Yeah.
to
Thank
this
you.
wise lady tell us, impart her wisdom with us today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful to see all the guys. Kelly Copter just popped in.
Oh,
Said, hey,
Kelly. Hi,
Nice.
sweetie. It's Kelly.
I
She's
know I want her to
amazing.
come over to my side at midnight with Magoo.
Kelly.
That's right. She'll be yeah, just waking up, isn't it? Or just kind of in their morning time.
She's been doing a
Yeah.
lot of morning shows I've been watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, morning for me. So I don't know what it
Yeah.
is for you, Kelly. Yeah, I love
Well,
that
anyway,
girl. Mhm.
thank you for putting up the xenu.net. That's good.
Mhm.
That's the website I would say, because there's so much. There's personal stories, there's information. OT3 is on there, that's handwritten by Hubbard. It's like a lot of factual information is on there. Videos. Going Clear is now on Netflix. That's the thing. If you haven't watched that, watch that.
Yes, I've seen that a few times, and then what's so weird is now it's on Netflix. I bought it on Amazon Prime, and now it's on Netflix. But I watched it again, and I
That's
had
okay.
booked. But no, Mods, thank you so much for all your amazing work. Kathy Ann backstage here doing great. Thank you so
Mhm.
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Gretchen,
Thank you
thank
so much.
you. Tori, I truly appreciate this. This has been an amazing short time here, and we would love to have you back on the channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime. Anytime.
And
I
that
really,
I will be getting in touch with you soon. So
yeah, good. All right.
but
All
Okay,
right.
I
thank
love
you
you
so much,
guys.
Tory. And thank you, Chuck. Thanks everyone that came by. Please follow and like Tory and subscribe if you hadn't to Tory. And we're also, if you like this one, just give us a little click on the like button.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you, man.
you.
All right,
That up.
Kathy.
You put up on YouTube.
Kathy Ann's going to take care